Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigilant Network show. My name is Emma Vigilant, and you know what to do, folks. Subscribe, youtube.com/ESVN show, and after you do, you can put on push notifications to get notified every time we go live. Rate us 5 stars. Say hello to us in the comments section on our videos and on our streams. Give us your love. We need it. We're hungry for your love. And ahead of this NFL trade deadline, 4 p.m. tomorrow, less than 24 hours. Things are starting to kind of congeal in the NFL. We got the World Series, the NBA starting back up. We've got some semi-political stories that we'll be talking about regarding Adam Johnson, the American hockey player who tragically died. All of that up here on this Monday episode. Hello, Bradley Alsop.
Hello. I love congealing.
You do? I like that word.
I love when things congeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
the Jets' victory.
Yeah.
That was
a congealing win.
The Jets did not deserve to win that game, unfortunately. Why?
Who did?
Why? No one did. But Graham Gano missed 3 field goals.
Yeah, no. There's the.
He needs to get off the field. He needs surgery. This is ridiculous at this point.
The Gano. I was behind on YouTube TV, so I was seeing that there was overtime on Twitter, and I was like, how? I'm struggling to see how this did not just end with a field goal.
It was
after Zach Wilson got like a 25-yard sack on fourth and
clutch pass by Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
He's had a few of those, like not done anything until the fourth quarter.
Yes, exactly. Right, exactly.
And he's come back.
Pretty good. 4-3, baby. A win's a win. That's
3.
right.
I'm happy for the Jets, at least in that sense. Like, I mean, the Giants, it almost accelerated what needed to happen. They're sellers. The trade deadline. We will talk about the Leonard Williams trade to kick off that trade deadline. But before we get to that, this World Series is one of the best things to happen to baseball, I feel like, in a little while, because it's just so random and so fun.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that from any of the old farts being like, none of the good teams are in it.
Oh, please.
I think it also just goes to show you that, like, I think it just goes to show you, like, very clearly, especially in baseball, like, winning 100 games in the regular season does not necessarily make you like a World Series contender. Like,
right.
I also feel like, honestly, in the last few years,
Orioles just completely collapsed.
But I was thinking it's obviously a way smaller sample size than 162 games. But like, I also don't feel like very many times the odds-on best team wins the World Series. Like, I know this probably seems more random because like it's literally the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, 2 teams who lost 100+ games in 2021 are now in the World Series. But like, I don't think it's that common where the best teams actually do genuinely get to the World Series and win all the time.
I think really the only sport that you can say that about, honestly, is the NBA. And even that was defied last year with the Miami Heat going on a massive streak.
And we weren't being like, oh, that sucks. Like,
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. But I do think that it's... First of all, NFL, it being single elimination, the Giants were not better than the Patriots when they beat them, the undefeated.
Yeah, right.
But they got hot. They had the right game plan, and that's how that went.
I think like the
were the Rams the best team in the NFL the year they won the Super Bowl? I mean, we could keep going.
I think there's just a level of randomness that you have to bake into any playoff-like tournament.
Yeah.
Especially in the MLB when it goes from like literally a 4 to 5 month sample of games to best of 3, best of 5, best of 7. It's just not going to like, you're not going to get every single probability metric going in the same exact way where it's like the Dodgers and the Orioles.
Yeah. And in the NHL, it's similar too. Like, I mean, we saw this with the Panthers last year. They just got hot at the right time.
There are many examples across sports for sure, but I'm excited. I'm pleased because the first game was awesome. That we got.
Oh my god!
A one run game with a Adolis Garcia walk off, and then
he's my guy. This is why I'm rooting.
Yeah,
for the
he's
Rangers.
awesome.
He's a stud.
And he kind of came out of nowhere. Well, he wasn't like a highly touted prospect, and he sort of came on really strong for them the last few seasons, and had a pretty good showing in the home run derby. He's a really fun player, and just very clearly possesses the swagger and confidence to lead a kind of moribund franchise So I love that. I love that type of player who can kind of revitalize a team that really needed it.
Oh, and he is in a contract year.
Yeah, and so
this guy's about to get paid.
Totally. So he's also right. He's making good on what will be a very generous payday. And if everything goes right, the man won't have to buy a drink in the Dallas area for a while.
Certainly not.
But then honestly, it was. I know that it was a kind of a route game too. But I just thought it was interesting reading some a bit about the game. The Diamondbacks just playing like real small ball to kind of win. They basically won off of like singles, doubles, 3 sacrifice bunts, and 1 solo home run, which is just like very much not the like the 2020s
exactly,
3 true outcomes MLB of like walks, strikeouts, and home runs. So it was kind of fun to see that they were able to actually win on the ground like that. So it honestly stylistically is a pretty interesting matchup, and it's two teams that obviously have nothing to lose. Like we're not maybe necessarily expecting to be in this moment even 5 to 6 weeks ago, and now we're just playing with house money for all of it. So
and the Rangers, though, it would be the first World Series victory in the history of the franchise, so that's something that I'm rooting for. And I know we've had some very smart IMers write in and say that in terms of the players' rights elements of this, the Diamondbacks' payroll is so low,
skeletal,
that it's kind of like, let's root for the team that actually chooses to pay their players, and the Rangers are able to do that. I guess tonight it seems like Scherzer is going to start now that they go back to Arizona. And that'll be interesting because he's been kind of not necessarily stingy in giving up runs in that way. But
yeah, he had one pretty terrible start in it was the first or second round of the playoffs. It was right before where he just like truly couldn't get out of like the second inning. But I think ideally with he's had some rest. I would personally, just because I am such a fan of his, regardless of him having ignominiously exited my team, as well as Jacob deGrom. It is not lost on me that there are 3 players who are on the Mets this season who are now in the World Series.
Yes.
Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom on the Rangers, and Tommy Pham on the Diamondbacks. No problem.
No big deal.
It's not as if when you exit a Mets uniform, you also leave behind the vial of poison that comes stock and trade with every uniform kit that you get when you enter Citi Field.
It's not a trade; it's an exorcism.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's literally it's you're exhuming bad spirits when you leave
Right.
when you leave Citi Field. But I would love to see him, pitch well and pitch in like kind of clutch circumstances as he did in the 2019 World Series when he was still with the Nationals.
Yeah.
Be cool to see him do it one more time.
Absolutely. Rooting for the Rangers, I think, for sure. Now on to the NFL. Let's start with the big story from week 8 in the NFL. And by the way, no teams on bye. I guess it was to showcase everybody before the trade deadline on
I was
Tuesday.
surprised by that too. I mean, obviously Scott Hansen was super jacked up about that.
Oh my God.
The red zone guy. I didn't realize though. I thought there would be some buys week 8, but
He's starting to annoy me. I mean, it's like he really is such a company man with the damn. But I have like YouTube TV Sunday Ticket going on my laptop, and then on the TV I have Red Zone.
Oh, okay. I see. You got
I can mute
the dual
him on
screen.
occasion.
The dual screens.
Oh yeah, sometimes
That's
3
good.
screens, sometimes 2 laptops contributed by my partner. There's a reason that my brain is this way.
2 laptops. It's so good.
2 laptops and the TV. Total losers. Anyway, the Broncos upset the Kansas City Chiefs with not to take it away from you guys, but clearly sick Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, he was not well.
I mean, it was apparently flu-like symptoms. I don't know what that means. That's COVID, maybe?
Well, so
because apparently no players get COVID anymore.
But I was seeing that apparently, per her social media, Brittany Mahomes and her children had a stomach virus.
Okay, so
and
either way, Mahomes not feeling well.
Meaning, and it seemed like per her social media that she got sick, or actually one of their children got sick, then she got sick, then the other child got sick. So my assumption is just he Patrick was not able to escape the contagion of that prior to playing, and apparently he had to get multiple IV drips prior to the game.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I mean, and Mahomes is a warrior, but for the Broncos fans, they have won 2 in a row going into their bye after everybody left them for dead and said it's Caleb Williams' season.
Yeah, interesting that I was getting ripped to pieces for saying that I thought this defense was okay, and they're
coming back,
and they held the Chiefs to 9 points. Well, this is also, I mean, it's a testament to how screwy all this stuff is and how difficult it is to parse anything. As I've been saying the last few weeks, like this team gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, and then literally gave up 9 to the Chiefs. Like these things, it's senseless. Like I have no, like, the barometer is very hard to like keep track of at this point.
It's a matchup league, as they say.
That's right. It's true.
But this is the first time that the Chiefs have been held without a touchdown since October 24th, 2021. So it's been almost 2 years when they lost 27-3 to the Titans. This is Mahomes' first ever divisional road loss. I'm just re-emphasizing that. Mahomes in the division in the regular season has not lost on the road to the Broncos, to the Chargers, to the Raiders. Never happened until today. The Broncos hadn't beat the Chiefs before this since 2015. 16-game losing streak for the Broncos. It has been 2,965 days, and they did it. And look, it wasn't, let's ride Russell Wilson. He was doing just enough. But it really was the defense making such a great effort. And the issues with the Chiefs and their receiving room is still real. Marquez Valdes-Scantling did not have a good game. Rashee Rice, who has actually kind of emerged as a decent player for Mahomes, had a big drop. Sky Moore is just not the guy that he was advertised as. He doesn't seem to have the elite speed to put him over the top.
And also,
Christian Watson's like the only guy that can make a play.
Justin Watson?
Justin Watson. And, I mean, besides, obviously, Kelsey, who was in the second half much held to I don't even remember exactly what the statistics were on that front, but Kelsey had a much quieter second half than he did the first. And the Chiefs need more talent to catch passes. They just do. And either way, though, not taking away anything from the Broncos, it seems like Sean Payton's kind of system or whatever is starting to get put in place. And then it raises a lot of questions. I thought for sure at the end of the year they were going to just bite the bullet and try to buy themselves out of this Russell Wilson contract. But he seems to be at least, somewhat managing the game in the way that Payton wants. And perhaps that's enough until they try to get their guy.
Well, also, the one thing I was seeing from this game too that I thought was kind of emblematic of their struggles, which is that, it could have been decision making, it could have been fatigue from Mahomes. That there were a few plays where I think he maybe usually wouldn't make them, and I'm describing that mostly to his illness potentially. But like he went kind of really quickly in one throw to Sky Moore in a one-on-one matchup with Patrick Surtain. And to me, I'm like, I feel like a healthy Mahomes would sort of be like, that's not the matchup I should be going to. Where Surtain is like maybe 2 to 3 inches taller, has probably 20 to 30 pounds on Sky Moore, and has absolutely insane closing speed. Like, there's just really no way Sky Moore is going to be winning that matchup. So I wouldn't necessarily think that, with some of these caveats, I don't think I'm like worried about what the Chiefs are doing necessarily. It's more I just think like they probably would really stand to benefit from some sort of game changer in the passing game that's not Travis Kelce, because everyone else, I mean, Rice is good, but Rice is also a second round rookie.
Yeah.
It's a lot to put on a guy to be kind of like the second option to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and they were able to get away with it last year with the way that the team was constructed. And, they had some exits like Juju Smith-Schuster. Not that I think that changes a ton. But, yeah, the Chiefs are probably going to try to add a receiver at the deadline. I'd imagine that they will, but we shall see. Not much to note on that game, just except the historic nature of it. And the Chiefs, I will also say, they have a very important game coming up in Germany against the Miami Dolphins. They are both 6-2. This head-to-head matchup could determine home field advantage, and given the issues that Tua has throwing in cold weather, if the Dolphins are able to get the first overall seed in the AFC, then they could actually go to the Super Bowl. And that would be a sight to see. Obviously, I would think that could be a very fun Super Bowl. We could have a matchup of the Eagles and the Dolphins again in the Super Bowl. And that's going to be in Las Vegas, so closed dome there, and that would be just fascinating to watch. But I think that, this game in Germany is going to be really, really important for the future of the AFC.
We got a bunch of good ones next week, it seems like. Chiefs, Dolphins, Bengals, Bills on Sunday night. And then the Eagles, is it Eagles Cowboys it might be, or there's one matchup that is also interesting in the NFC. I just forgot which one.
You're going to have to check that out for me because I didn't look too far ahead except for that game. But yeah, big one. Now to my guy, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow beat the 49ers, and the Bengals did too. Want to give that defense credit because they played very well and made a ton of plays. But the entire game, it just felt like Burrow was in control. And
he's so back.
Yeah, he's so back.
It was so over. Now he's so back.
He's so back. He ran.
They needed
the ball.
That bye week so badly.
He scrambled 28 for 32. Let me just repeat that. 4 incompletions for 326 total yards.
I mean, that's
3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against the 49ers defense.
Like ruthlessly efficient.
And I didn't even say his rushing statistics, which I don't have in front of me, but he did run for like at least 30 yards. He scrambled well. He looked great. He made plays. He's so tough to get down because he has such like incredible vision of the field. And the thing that people talk about with Joe Burrow is that he is maybe the best quarterback in the NFL against zone defense. And that's I mean, you picked it with your pick. Like, the 49ers primarily play zone, and then they have such amazing pass rushers and such an amazing defensive front that they try to get you rattled and making mistakes in that way with their front four and with their pass rush. But Burrow just was able to see the field so well that he picked apart the zone, and then they were getting desperate, and then they go to play man-to-man, and you can't play man-to-man with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Like, it just doesn't happen.
And also, to say nothing of, obviously, Higgins and Chase, but also, like, Burrow was finding Tyler Boyd kind of also at some points at will. Yeah. I mean, like, the one play that
I always think of Tyler Boyd and Tyler Lockett in the same vein.
Oh, yeah, the two Tylers.
They've been very consistent on their teams for a long
They've been truly,
like,
extremely reliable, like, number 3 or number 4 options on their respective teams for what, for me, seems like 15 years.
I think number 4 is a little disrespectful. They're consistently number 3s, and they just are, they don't age, and they still do their thing, and that's it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't mean to minimize them when I say I feel like at some point I thought maybe like almost like Golden Tate at some point in Seattle like superseded Lockett, even though I feel like they kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
But I also even might be wrong if they were on the team at the same time.
No, they were.
Oh, they were. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
But Lockett, but yeah, no, I totally agree. But Boyd, I was thinking of the play where, like, Burrow literally was being the Niners front was bearing down on him to the point.
No, I was wrong. They did not. They
didn't overlap.
They draft. Sorry, go on.
But okay, so maybe number 3 though. Number 3 I think is a confident assessment.
I'm derailing the conversation.
There was one snap where the Niners front was completely bearing down on Burrow. He backs up a tiny bit, climbs through pressure and then also what I thought was so incredible from a movement perspective to see him do, which I think is so crucial to their success, is where he lowered his shoulder to sort of shed the guy almost coming over his shoulder, then to drift out and hit Tyler Boyd, who remained open despite all of that commotion at the line. Those are the plays that are just like, that's how the Bengals win. That is how the Bengals win, by just having guys who are better than your guys. And when they are looking like that against what has for the first 7-8 weeks of the season been like the most fearsome, unstoppable front 4 and front 7 in the league, to do it against them after what we saw from them in the first 6 weeks prior to the bye, where we were like, oh my God, thank God they're 3-3 going into the bye, as opposed to 1-5 potentially, given how tough sledding it was for Burrow. This is a massive relief, I imagine, for the Bengals as a team, and their fans. But it's also just like, as a guy who he's Burrow is just my type of quarterback. Like I still have some reverence for guys who can stand very tall in the pocket and just whip throws all over the field.
Totally.
And being smart enough to escape when he needs to escape. It was just awesome to see him doing what he does best.
I mean, he reminds me of like a Peyton Manning, but with better footwork and like
and more
athleticism.
I was going to say and more athleticism, honestly, because like even.
But you have to be. I mean, the game has changed so much since we first
Yes,
started
100%,
watching.
right.
Like, I mean, it just.
There are no statues anymore.
I
really.
mean, except Goff.
Right, and even Goff to it is like it's point and shoot with like the best maybe the best offensive line in the league,
Yeah.
and I think that's really the only way you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, Cousins is even more mobile than traditional quarterbacks, but we'll get to that very sad situation in a sec. But
I was there, and I will say,
yeah,
with the Niners, I was more probably concerned about the defense and the offense because the offense was at least still moving the ball. Purdy had a few dumb mistakes, but there was still some good movement between Purdy and Ayuk and Purdy and Kittle. I just think this team really, and of course McCaffrey kind of gets his no matter what's going on in the game when he's healthy. Health is just the most important thing for this offense. They just truly, like, getting Trent Williams back, getting Deebo Samuel back will be so crucial for this team's success. And as you said, in terms of the Niners kind of like almost forcing themselves into playing man when the zone wasn't working, that's just something they're going to have to kind of, I think tinker with. This is maybe the first time we're seeing, oh, right, this is a new defensive coordinator. This is not the DeMeco Ryans defense with, Jimmy Ward still there, with him still there. Like, this is, I think, one of the first signs we're seeing of actual growing pains from the 2022 Shanahan administration's turnover.
I mean, yeah, but like at the same time, I mean, they did play that whatever Seattle scheme there, which had zone last year.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just wondering what is going on. There seems to be some breakdowns, even though they added to their defense. I mean, they got Javon Hargrave in the offseason, and he's been really good, but it's just been very difficult for them to really kind of get back to some of the form that they had shown in the early part of the year. Wanted to, before we moved on, shout out that Princeton wide receiver on the Bengals, another who has now caught touchdown passes.
Was he this?
2 weeks in a row, right? And has no other catches except touchdowns. Andre Osivis, just to show just how Burrow is spreading the ball around.
Love that guy.
Love that guy. Yeah. Shout out.
Move step aside, George Karlaftis.
Yeah.
There's another Greek freak in the NFL.
And also a coastal elite who went to Princeton University. Shout out to.
He's probably a stuffy nerd.
Yeah. Shout out to the nerds out there. But like. I mean, honestly, Brock Purdy hasn't been very good over the past few weeks. Like, he's been shaky. I saw it against the Giants on Thursday Night Football, even though they dominated that game. Purdy threw a bunch of really, really dangerous passes in that game, and there were dropped interceptions and tips that just didn't go the Giants' way. And the 49ers have not scored 20 points for 3 weeks now. The defense is built in a way that should be keeping them in those kinds of games, and they have not. Brock Purdy over the last 3 games, 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Before, in the first 5 games, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So, like, the teams are starting to catch on a little bit to some of Brock Purdy's limitations and what the script is. And I just wonder, when they start to think about Sam Darnold. Now, I just want to take a small victory lap because we were getting yelled at in the comments for not thinking Purdy was elite. It's pretty clear what the situation is at this point. Another crazy stat, which I did not realize and read today, Kyle Shanahan's teams on the 49ers are 0-27 when entering the fourth quarter down by 7 or more points. That's a very crazy statistic. And when you unpack that, it's because quarterbacks that are elite are the ones that get you out of deficits in those situations. So when the Niners can't control the game, Purdy's not an elite quarterback and doesn't have elite arm talent. That's been obvious. And you're seeing it's limiting the team, and it's been limiting the team the entire time Kyle Shanahan has coached the 49ers.
Yeah, and I think and it's interesting because I still think even in yesterday's game, like there's a real tension, I think, between what there's a real tension, but it's like, I wouldn't say it's probably this stark, but it's like, it's all like, just for my own florid literary comparison, it's like a little Jekyll and Hyde. It's like the Iowa State Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy fighting with the Shanahan coach NFL Brock Purdy. Because there are throws where I'm like, wow, he's footwork's good. He's faking safeties with his eyes, and he's making like really kind of on the nails throws. But then there are times where it's like he kind of seems to lose all sense of either. I don't even know if it's like modesty is the right word, but he loses the sense of just sort of making the safe play to make like a kind of like catastrophic or backbreaking play. Like, and what I mean by that is the example is like, yes, with the Jermaine Pratt interception, which was essentially like a batted ball turned into an interception. Maybe if the throw was a tiny bit higher, he would have gotten it over his hands, and in while drifting, it would have been fine. You know, a little kind of push pass or kind of jump pass like that. But at the same time, like, you also maybe just don't make that throw, or you slide, or you keep running. Like, there's like it's. There are times where I feel like we have had games with him where he's been lucky to not make some of the mistakes that he might actually make now that more and more teams are playing him repeatedly, as opposed to seeing him just, you know, in the latter half of the season and in the postseason.
And let's be real, the guy has the best running back in the NFL, one of the better offensive lines in the NFL that's more coming together at this point. He has the best play caller in the NFL. He has Brandon Ayuk. He has George Kittle. He has Deebo Samuel when healthy. This is not somebody who
Trent Williams when healthy, the best left tackle in the league.
I mean,
probably,
this is not somebody who's in a poor situation. This is the kind of thing where his skill set should be maximized, and that is why everybody who wasn't a Niners fan wasn't riding this bandwagon was calling him a system quarterback, and that's who he is. Doesn't take away from his toughness. He's tough. He's gritty. I like the fact that he's got moxie. I like the guy, but there are realities about someone's physical limitations that are not, it's not bad to point that out. It's just like, you know, the Niners do have to adjust, I think.
And just selfishly, obviously, I would just love to see Sam Darnold in the Kyle Shanahan offense.
And you know what? He's going to look good.
Just to see,
the Shanahan offense.
Just to see what that cannon can do with some discipline, with some actual coaching around him.
I don't think he has a cannon. I've never thought that. I've always thought that he has great intermediate throwing ability.
Well, when I say it, I guess
he's more like, you know, he does not have an Allen arm or
I guess I don't even
lock arm as another backup.
Right? I don't necessarily. It's not really length. With his passes, I just sometimes feel like he can just he gets a lot of speed on his passes sometimes, where he just can like really whip a throw.
I think his skill set fits perfectly what Shanahan wants to do in that fact that he is a great intermediate thrower, like 10, 15 yards.
And we saw that a little bit in the preseason when they were actually having him play. But
Sam Darnold will play at some point this year, and it's going to be interesting. I wanted to highlight the Seahawks. They are really coming into their own here, and now they just traded for Leonard Williams, which is going to help them on the defensive line. They need some more size on that front. Seems like the Giants are basically retaining all the salary, but they got a second round and a fifth round pick back, which is, hey, I'll take that. Pay out the rest of his salary, let him go. It was another disastrous contract by Dave Gettleman.
I think it's great to get a few picks out of that trade.
Leo's been a consummate pro. He really has been.
He's great. I always liked him.
But the Seahawks have a real chance to make noise. Real chance to make noise here. This secondary is starting to come alive.
Yeah, they're awesome. I mean, and young.
Brown, Woolen, Witherspoon as that trio. Like, I believe Brown has had a bunch of interceptions for the Seahawks, and you look at some of the analytics for Devin Witherspoon, and he leads the team in pass breakups with 8, and they both have had touchdowns, both Trey Brown and Devin Witherspoon, that they've returned in terms of interceptions. Like, that is it's starting to click a little bit there. And then we saw that's how that game got closed out. It was Julian Love, and it started
with another honestly like low key good signing.
Another former
Giant. I was gonna say, was someone we both I think enjoyed very much on last year's Giants team.
Well, he's a fun player. I mean, because he's so smart. He's physically limited, but if he's not the guy that's going to be like the safety you need to rely on, he can be a very effective plug and play secondary player who caught that. It was Jamal Adams going like headbutting the ball with his head, and that closed out the game against the Browns. And man, this has now been the second week in a row, I believe, that JSN has had 2 clutch touchdowns. So we're starting to see this team come together. And Gino didn't even play his best football. He threw 2 interceptions.
Right. Talk about congealing, though.
Yes.
Like, the JSN aspect is really, I think, crucial because, like, now in the most ideal formation of the Seahawks, you kind of get 3 different complements of receiver.
Yes.
In terms of JSN, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. You have 3 very willing and able blocking tight ends who can also catch passes when necessary.
And
we have our guy Bobo. We
love Bobo.
I love Bobo. Bobo's one of the 2023. He's like one of the treats for me. I just love anytime I see him. I'm like, Jake Bobo.
Oh, Jake Bobo.
You go, Jake Bobo.
Yeah, we're so happy to see you, Jake Bobo.
And combine that with another. Speaking of compliments too, as I was saying last week, the like violence and kind of frenetic running style of Kenneth Walker compared with kind of the more like balanced and measured between the tackles running style of Zach Charbonnet.
Oh, they're a real two-horse like monster, two-headed monster, I should say.
Who can also, and then Charbonnet too, which is great, which is something that Walker's not as good at, is he's great at catching screen passes, which is a nice thing for Gino to have as well at his disposal. And combine all of that with the potential that, Charles Cross and Abe Lucas will come back healthy together, whereas the patchwork offensive line has honestly actually played pretty well without those guys. It does seem like, as you're saying, we're maybe not even seeing the peak yet of what the Seahawks can do, especially now that they're adding some little bit more depth to what could be a pretty good and already pretty good run defense unit. And the defense, I think, is actually improved significantly since last year. It was a huge liability for them last year, honestly. And now I think it's honestly a decently plus unit. If they can be like a top 5 offense, which I think they sort of have been the last few weeks, and be sort of like a top 15, top 17 defense, that's enough.
Well, they can hang with the Lions, who I know sometimes they can be inconsistent, but the Lions know how to win in a variety of different ways. They beat the Lions. And they can also win in a variety of different ways if this defense continues to go on this upward trajectory. And Pete Carroll knows how to coach a damn defense. We know that about him. So I picked the Seahawks to win the division before the year started. I still picked the Niners to go to the Super Bowl just out of the wild card. But that's looking a little bit better because I do think that the Seahawks have a little bit more of more momentum here. And they are clearly believers in their team. That's why they traded for Leonard Williams. You don't make that trade on an expiring contract if you don't believe that you have the ability to kind of like make some real noise in the NFC, which outside of the Eagles, what are we seeing in terms of teams that are like completely dominant? I mean, we thought the 49ers, but they've now lost 3 in a row. We thought that the Lions, right, were up there, but they have had issues. Like, they did not show up at all for that Baltimore Ravens game, and we'll see how they play tonight. I think they'll have a big bounce back game. And
then the Cowboys have been kind of. I mean, the Cowboys.
They're streaky as hell.
That's the thing. It's like they looked fantastic in this game, but this was a similar thing where it's like it's been zigzag. They've kind of been zigzagging the last few weeks.
They beat up on the bad teams and they've crumbled against the good teams.
Right,
That's how I feel about the Cowboys. So the Seahawks really like. I don't advocate for gambling. I would never do it myself. But if we're looking at the odds coming out of the NFC, I don't think that's a terrible selection.
And just to say, I just want to acknowledge, or at least marvel at how much I enjoy watching Gino play.
Oh yeah,
Gino is like
hair on fire.
Yeah, he's just like, I just appreciate a guy who and I say this in the sense that he, like, in the context of acknowledging that he's incredibly sound. He makes just some of the most like sometimes like actually jaw-dropping throws.
Oh, he's a gunslinger.
But what I love about that, knowing that he's making like unbelievable kind of like one-on-one extremely accurate throws in tight windows. He's just always going for it. Mm-hmm. Like he is not someone who is scared at all of trying to make a big play. And he's really good at it. Like he likes to be in that moment, and if he sees a spot that he thinks he can thread a needle to get as close to the end zone as humanly possible, wherever he is, he's going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, it's so awesome to watch.
They're a very fun team. I'm rooting for the Seahawks a bit this year. Sad news. Kirk Cousins Achilles tear.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Right when
Really
the
do feel for him.
Vikings were starting to come together. I mean, they have. I'm gonna go look up their schedule now because when I saw when they came back against the 49ers and they ended up still winning this game despite the horrible injury to Kirk Cousins here. I mean, this is their schedule coming up. They have the Falcons, the Saints, the Broncos, the Bears, the Raiders, the Bengals, the Lions, the Packers, the Lions. At the very least, the Falcons, Saints, Broncos, Bears, Raiders, they had a chance in all of those games to win. They could go
winnable
4-1 in those situations with Kirk Cousins. Now, it's not so sure. I'm bummed because I thought that the Vikings were going to kind of have a Cinderella run to the playoffs. I mean, if Cousins was playing, I think that they would have made the playoffs.
I think they were also. I think they were also. I mean, I thought the Niners game was definitely like pretty encouraging for them to stay in that game and also to say nothing of being able to stay competitive and beat a Niners team like that without knowing that they wouldn't have Justin Jefferson, and to see like in these last few games a real ascendance and a real kind of like coming out party for Jordan Addison. I'd say like somewhat that touchdown where he was able to actually like rip that ball out of Charvarius Ward's hands for the second time because he kind of got okey doked for an interception earlier in that game. Like, to me, I was like, oh, and also combine that with what I thought was honestly another, speaking of resurgence candidate, was Cam Akers in this offense, looking way better.
Oh yeah, R.I.P. Jordan Addison.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry, Alexander Madison. Joking.
But true. Yeah,
but his era is a little bit.
But kind of like coming in that kind of like, you know, unheralded trade and sort of immediately taking over some of the snaps for Madison. I could have definitely seen at least some kind of fight return to the Vikings, even though obviously we weren't going to necessarily get the, you know, high variance 12-0 and one score game Vikings probably ever again. That was probably just a statistical abnormality.
Yeah.
But I still think the combination of the coaching that they have now on both sides of the ball and some of these new pieces on offense would be enough to kind of at least have them be competitive throughout the season. So, and also it just sucks because like, I know he's a weird guy, but he's Kirk Cousins is probably gonna be 35, I think, at the end of this year. Like, it's just tough to have an Achilles come back for the season, have an Achilles injury midway through the season, extend the recovery probably as opposed to happening like week 1 or something like that. It's just as a team who lost his quarterback to an Achilles injury, I sympathize with Vikings fans.
The last year on his contract, so
right.
I mean,
and that
could be the last time we ever see Kirk Cousins in a Vikings uniform, and so it just 100%. Sucks. Also, Cousins has played in the NFL for 12 years. He's only been out one game for COVID. I mean, he has been an Iron Man, and he is really tough. Like, he really is. He got the shit kicked out of him last year. They showed it in the quarterback series, right, which has, you know, a lot of course, propagandistic elements to it. The people that are participating, I'm sure, want to be portrayed in a certain way. His wife creeped me out. I mean, not to put that on. She's very religious. It's quite obvious, and some of the way she'd phrase things, I'm like, all right, this is not for me. This is not for me as a liberal heathen from Brooklyn. But anyway, people think they could trade for Tannehill. I just don't know if I see it. I think that this Vikings front office is very analytically focused, and they don't really think they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year, so you might as well bottom out and see what you've got in Jaron Hall. He'll be better next week. He's going to be the starter most likely because Nick Mullins is on IR with a back injury, and he doesn't get back off until the game after next. They could sign Colt McCoy, who's 37, but Colt McCoy got cut from the Cardinals, who had the worst quarterback room in the NFL at the time. Dobbs has played okay, but he keeps starting strong for the Cardinals and then sputtering out, and he threw some stupid interceptions against the Ravens yesterday.
I think that's sort of why, for the most part, he's never really been NFL starter,
Yeah.
because he has some athletic gifts, but then just kind of like steps on a rake.
Yes. Yeah, he threw some really silly interceptions. So they could trade for Tannehill. I just don't see it. I think they're going to play out the rest of the season with the guys that they have. But we'll know by 4 p.m. tomorrow. Lots of stuff up in the air with the Vikings. Lots of uncertainty for this team, and
a lot of QB injuries yesterday too. I
Yeah.
mean, Desmond Ridder went down. Matthew Stafford went
Stafford.
down. Kenny Pickett went down.
And Pickett plays, or the Steelers play on Thursday
Yeah, play
night,
Thursday, so could have a Trubisky bowl.
Yeah, Trubisky also, I believe, threw a pretty dumb interception. He threw a pretty gorgeous touchdown pass.
That's right. Yeah,
and
there
then he
was
threw
one
an
really nice
interception.
throw. Yeah.
Yeah, Trubisky's another guy where it's like,
But it's funny when you see these backups, you're like, this is why, because you see it's like, oh, right, they're an NFL caliber quarterback. Then it's like, oh, right, like he just stared that guy straight down for 5 seconds and threw it straight to a quarterback.
Totally. In positive quarterback news, speaking of Tannehill and the Titans, can they just go back to being the Oilers? Because those uniforms
are
are
so sick. Yeah,
and I know that the Oilers actually are the Texans, but they should just do a
Right.
a Cleveland Browns thing. Where the Cleveland Browns are the original Cleveland Browns are technically the Baltimore Ravens. But this new Cleveland
Yes, it's
Browns
so
team-
convoluted, right? It's
But I want that for the Titans. Like, I know that the Texans are, or I know that whatever. There's a lot of movement around this, but the Titans should just be the Tennessee Oilers. Actually, that doesn't make any sense. Either way.
Well, I even just think I just like the
I like the aesthetic.
I wish they could. It's the way I feel about some of these alternates where I'm like, I like them so much. I kind of just wish they were like the away jerseys or whatever.
Yeah, and
like,
it's just, but to see a
because I love like the Kelly
quarterback
Green Eagles jerseys.
throwing bombs like that, it's reminiscent of Warren Moon.
It's very aesthetically pleasing.
Who was a big armed quarterback. And so it just was pretty awesome to see Will Levis, in relief of Ryan Tannehill, just showing off that arm
just
strength.
slinging it to DeAndre Hopkins over and over.
And look, like the teams, the Falcons were not prepared for it, I think. There's not game film on Will Levis. I think you should know that he has a big arm coming out of college, but they probably assumed he'd be a little less accurate. He was 19 of 29 for 238 yards and 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Like, nice debut.
3 of those touchdowns went to D-Hop, who just was, on fire. I don't understand why he can't do that every week, but apparently he's not somebody who likes to practice very much, so that might contribute to it. But either way, like, I don't know if you could have a better debut than that. And they won. And the Falcons don't have a bad defense. They actually have a decent secondary with Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell.
And they invested pretty heavily in it in the offseason too. So I wouldn't necessarily expect them to get absolutely torched, but like Levis did exactly what he needed to do, which I think is, as to your point, I would almost hope would be the formula for them, which is, I know he's 32, 33 at this point, but like, see DeAndre Hopkins throw to DeAndre Hopkins, rinse, repeat. Like, and I know the 4th touchdown I think was to Nick Westbrook-Akine, but like, I think it just goes to show that there still really is some pop in Hopkins if he's given the chance to kind of show that off.
I mean, he needs to do a better job of I would say, based on some of what I've seen, trying to get open, but it's also just like he can't do that at this point in his career. DeAndre Hopkins was never a burner, and he's older and not taking PEDs this time, so maybe he's just not feeling that pep in his step. I'm sorry, I don't really like DeAndre Hopkins as a person, but
I didn't realize you were anti-juicing.
I am. I don't like cheaters. So
hot take.
I don't like when you cheat at the sport that you're playing, especially because when you have that increased strength, you could like actually really hurt somebody and not know it. So, whatever. Long story. And DeAndre Hopkins has made a lot of money in his career, so it's not like he's an edge of the roster guy. So I just have very little sympathy for the cheating. Regardless, good job by the Titans. Will Levis, let's see if he can keep it up. I mean, there have been quarterbacks that have had very strong debuts. I'm a Giants fan. Daniel Jones, his debut week 3, I believe. Either way, it was against the Bucs in Tampa. He ended up winning, and that was an incredible victory. And then the rest of the season kind of fell apart from there. But Will Levis, at least, a really, really strong debut. And the Titans, it seems like poor Malik Willis, he's kind of going to be out on his ass at this point. It just looked different with Levis coming in.
And I just feel like if you see this, you're like, and Tannehill's not back. And Tannehill also, I think if I saw the statistic correctly, like Levis had more throwing touchdowns than Tannehill has had all year.
Yeah.
I would just think, why the hell not? Let's just see where it goes.
Totally.
Like,
I mean, they already sold. They traded.
Right.
They've been trading away assets, so it's just. I mean, trading away players. They traded away that safety whose name is.
Kevin Byard to
Kevin
the Eagles.
Byard to the Eagles. So, yeah, time to just kind of see what you guys have and rebuild from there. But
or they could just play someone like I don't know, Brian Hoyer over a younger quarterback, just because it's not preseason, right?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, right. Yeah, just take a page out of Genius McDaniels' book.
Why? That's still bothering me.
I understand.
I'm still annoyed by it.
I know. Well, we don't have that to rail against because Jimmy G's been cleared tonight.
Yeah, right.
So
Right. He's back. Our boy's back.
Look out for some
that jawline is
interception.
Back.
Yeah, right. I know. Unfortunately for us, he'll have a helmet on half the time as opposed to being his face being more visible on the sideline. But for Jacoby Myers and
we gotta customize Jimmy G helmet where his it's transparent. You just see his jaw.
I mean, honestly, that's. I think that's what the people want.
Let's go to the Jaw Camp, sponsored by State Farm.
I'm looking at these other games. What else to remark? I mean, the Dallas Cowboys beat up on the Rams. Poor Matthew Stafford. That offensive line is horrible. We mentioned Minnesota. Jordan Love, what the hell is going on there?
Yeah, he's
regressing like big time.
But also, I think the real pronounced youth of this team is showing very strongly that there's like really no veteran presence at all on the offense, and the defense is just. It's sad to say because I absolutely was like high on this defense coming in, but like the same thing is happening again, where the personnel on this side of the ball is not playing up to their expectations.
I know, and I just saw they gave Rashawn Gary a max,
he's good, but I
big extension, and it's just really the defense is kind of I don't know what's going on with them. I mean, we're doubling down.
I think he's good. I think Preston Smith is good.
He's good,
but I also think.
And I support my New Jersey guys, Rashawn Gary.
But I would expect, I think even relative to last year, I would have expected for them to continue to go up to what I think their ceiling might be. Because Gary, I think on a per snap basis last year was like one of the most effective pass rushers, but I feel like we're not seeing that as much. Mm-hmm. And then guys like Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, I think are still not like. Yeah, are not super significant factors at this point.
It's odd. It's odd.
It just seems like certain points in the development of these guys on defense are still not where they're supposed to be, and I feel like I was feeling that way at the end of last season also.
Exactly. And the thing that annoys me about Jordan Love is that he'll play like total crap until like maybe third way through the third quarter or fourth quarter, and he'll start putting things together, and it's just where was this to start the game? You would have been competitive if you started to play this way.
It's just it's consistency because I don't think he's not. I certainly don't think he's not. I don't think he's untalented.
Me neither.
And I think he does have the tools.
The ball looks when it comes out of his hands, but he's still,
just consistency.
His consistency's been bad over the. I mean, and I think that there have to be some questions. I would say about the future of the team with him, and I don't know.
The Jaguars looked pretty good. Feeling good about the Jaguars, 6-2.
The Jaguars are sneaky kind of stacked. I mean, they're really
and the defense
young.
And the defense is playing really well now. They have like a pretty good run defense. Their secondary is looking so much better than it was last year. Tyson Campbell's like a legit corner. Andre Sisco's a legit safety. Like that was, I think, the concern last year that the run defense was pretty porous. Now they're not really having those problems. And Calvin Ridley is your number one receiver.
And Travis Etienne is playing a top 5 running back in the NFL. Yeah, so I mean that is
things are looking up for the Jags, I think.
I like this team, and I think people are down. I think Lawrence is polarizing people. I would say.
Yeah,
a lot of people think he's overrated, but I just think he's asked to play a different style of quarterback than others, where his statistics don't look the same because he's just kind of old school in the way Jordan Peterson.
What?
Doug Peterson tries to get him to play, which is like big dude, stand in the pocket, take risks, play gutsy, but that's not always going to translate to flashy stats like what Tua gets, for example.
Well, he's all and to the similar thing as you were saying. Obviously, I'm not comparing them. I just mean like to your point about what you were saying about Darnold. It's like I would say Trevor's game is also he is I think where he shines the most is in kind of the like medium intermediate throws as opposed to throwing like massive bombs. Like I think he's really great side to side in terms of how he throws the ball. And I think in those ways he's pretty surgical, but sometimes I don't think it necessarily manifests in like a ton of passing yards.
Yeah.
Like he also doesn't make when he is not like there, if you take out the few games where it's like, oh my god, why is he fumbling the ball 5 times? Like he really does not make mistakes consistently. He usually is able to bunch those mistakes in 1 or 2 games.
That is a good observation. Yeah, I mean he just looks at the part out there. The ball looks great coming out of his hands,
and he's so
strong,
sure of himself.
He's big. He's a professional. I mean, Jacksonville, you're in good hands. I understand.
I completely agree.
He's not Burrow. He's not Mahomes. But damn, is he not like a top 7 quarterback in the NFL?
I love watching him play.
Yeah,
I just think
he's a unique style. He's an Adonis.
And so I feel great because I feel great about them because the Steelers' defense is no joke, even if the Steelers...
And it was raining.
Right, and it's a weather... And also, and I think that is really encouraging for it to be a bad weather game and to win that game convincingly.
Totally. And Ridley still was active. Like, they were still...
Oh, yeah, for sure, I mean,
Lawrence was throwing a catchable ball in the rain.
Totally.
That's not a given for a lot of quarterbacks. Again, not to just cite my Giants fandom, but Daniel Jones is a very bad rain ball thrower.
No, it's...
Yeah. You know, there are a lot of quarterbacks who can't throw in the rain. Jared Goff can't throw in the rain. Anyway.
And then, unfortunately, at least for me, in our well, actually, did I
don't even want to talk about that. Did you see that last minute field goal so that the freaking Ravens didn't cover? It was 9.5 points. And they got the onside kick and kicked a field goal. I almost threw something at my television. Do you understand me? I've now had 2 coffees, so I'm hyped up.
Did I win the Panthers Texans bet?
No.
Oh, I didn't win. See, that's what fuck.
They were 3.5-point favorites. You went 1-1-1. You went 1-1-1.
You're kidding me. I thought
And you pushed on
That's unbelievable. That's really unbelievable, actually.
You pushed on.
I really thought I went 2-1.
What did you push on?
On the Bengals Niners game or on the Seahawks Browns game?
You pushed on Seahawks Browns because it was a 4-point spread.
Right. Well, I will say
you won the Bengals one. So you went 1-1-1. I am now 0-2. We have to see.
We'll see tonight.
8 points.
Yeah.
Please. I'm so mad at the freaking Ravens. What do you... Again, they won the game. So this is all about me. But like, Jim Harbaugh, you're a special teams coach. Like, you don't know how to... John Harbaugh, you're a special teams coach. You don't know how to get a freaking onside kick? Or you just didn't care because you were down by 2 scores and it doesn't matter, except it matters to bettors. I know you don't play the game for bettors, but I'm angry at John Harbaugh.
Yeah, we need like a call in line to the coaches being like, cover the spread.
I know.
But I will say, granted, it was 15 points, but I do think Bryce Young looked decent in the game against the Texans.
Okay.
He had a few, I think, pretty good throws. He ran around out of structure, which was pretty good. I also was not. I mean, honestly, credit to the Panthers defense too.
Stroud didn't play very well.
Limiting, and I think that's just like I think we're gonna see this, and have seen it honestly. Like, Ejiro Evero's a great freaking defensive coach. Mm-hmm. Like Frankie Louva was all over the place. Derek Brown played well.
Yeah.
And it's not even, I don't even think it's that, insignificant, because I think the Texans offense had been playing really well against some other teams. So like it was a good showing for them to only limit them to 13 points and kind of minimize Stroud's, what Stroud has been good at the last few weeks. And I think Bryce Young played well enough to get them over the hump on offense too, to get them into where they got the field goal.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. The Commanders, what do you have to say? I mean, the Eagles wear everybody down and they win these games and put
And Sam Howell had almost 400 yards and he only got sacked once. I can't believe he only got sacked once.
I mean, he only put up 31 points. Like, I mean, the failure there was the Washington defense, which is what Rivera is responsible for. Once again, I saved most of my ire for Josh McDaniels and for Brandon Staley. But quietly bubbling beneath the surface is Ron Rivera being a bit of an asshole and being bad at his job.
I mean, it's unfortunate and like kind of almost it's like surprising a little bit too, because for two reasons, one on offense, one on defense from this game, is that as I said, the Eagles front almost only got home with Hassan Reddick in the fourth quarter. I mean, the Giants got 6 sacks on Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Like, much significantly worse defenses got home on Sam Howell like 5 to 6 times last. Like, he was on track to get almost 100 sacks this year.
Yeah.
And they only sacked him one time, and he was really wheeling and dealing for the most part of the game. He looked pretty good. He looked probably, I mean, I would say probably his best game of the whole season. Almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, I think. He was... The connection between him and Terry McLaurin, him and Jahan Dotson is looking great, is looking pretty good. But, like, it's just always surprising to see a team that has this kind of, like, vaunted in terms of, like, pedigree in the front. Like, having Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, like, and to
Chase
not...
Young.
And Chase Young, and not be as effective as you might think they'd be on defense.
It defies explanation, and especially when you have a defensive head coach, it's not excusable.
Right, 100%. 100%.
I mean, this is how
when
I
that's
feel
your calling
about Staley.
card.
Like,
right.
Why is the defense trash? And again, last night they played well, but Bajent is... I'm so glad
you're playing the Bears. I mean,
I'm so glad that there were 400 different graphics that NBC put together about one player on the team, Tyson Bagent, and now his parents should be very proud. It's very cool that he came up with it, but like
his dad's a professional arm wrestler.
I know way more about Tyson Bagent than I'll ever need to know.
Right.
I just don't like the obsession with quarterbacks in these broadcasts. Like, your job is to also educate the public, and there are 53 men on the roster. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about other guys.
Yeah, let's talk. I think, unfortunately, and this might be, it's not. I don't think it's that cynical, but I think honestly they're like, well, this matchup is going to be a real shit fest. We gotta get a huge amount of B-roll to keep people watching this game.
Yes.
It's like 30-7 with 11 minutes left in the third quarter.
And Bagent does have D2.
It's like, where is Shepherd University?
Shepherd University.
Interesting.
They made a cold tub in the woods. Okay.
His dad's a professional arm wrestler.
Yeah.
Check him out in the stands.
I saw so much of the professional arm wrestling father. Either way, though, the outcome was quite expected. I would
honestly
say.
That guy looked pretty young and pretty jacked. Get him on the Bears.
Yeah.
Give him a 10-day contract.
Yeah, honestly.
Let's see what he can do. He has strong arms, clearly.
Could he beat out Tebow in the tight end race?
They signed them two at the same time.
Yeah.
It was like we're signing Tim Tebow and Travis Bagent, professional arm wrestler, for our tight end.
Hey,
contest.
the Bears are trying anything. It's the
Right.
it's
we're throwing shit at the wall.
the son to father receiving connection.
And they're also I love how they're pending. It's like Kevin Warren resigned from the Big Ten to become their GM, and he just is like looking so agonized in the box. And it's like, and Ryan Poles on the football side, he has like his AirPods in, like not watching the game. It's like vibes are great in Chicago.
Well,
everyone's having a good time.
And with that freaking Carolina Panthers win, I don't know if the Cardinals are winning another game this season. So they may have
Cardinals.
They may have won themselves out of the fact that the Panthers won that game, and they have they are not in first place right now. It is the Cardinals have overtaken the Bears in the Caleb Williams race.
No way.
Yeah, because of that win by the Panthers.
So now things become very interesting.
They do. They certainly do. And you know who's in fourth? The New York Football Giants.
Yeah, let's go.
Train. Tank. The tanks can't go on the train.
You could put the tank on a train.
Okay. I think that's basically it. We've covered every game, just at least a little bit tonight. I mean, we've got the Lions Raiders game tonight. Pray for me to cover. So I at least go 1-2 this week. Not another week back to back of 0-3.
I think it'll be a little bit of a bounce back for the Lions, honestly.
I'm praying.
Yeah.
I'm praying that that's the case. And they also have a little bit of that bully quality that the Cowboys possess. Let's just touch on this really quickly because this is a really important story. So, Adam Johnson, an American hockey player, has died in a horrible accident during a hockey game. He had his throat slit by a skate that while he was skating, the player's leg got kicked up in the air and it slit him in the throat and he died. And I mean, he had previously played for the Pittsburgh Penguins for about a dozen NHL games before, and he was playing in a game in England. He was 29 years old. Rest in peace to Adam Johnson. I mean, I can't even imagine what his family's going through when you're playing the game you love to have that kind of accident, what his teammates are going through, honestly, and other people that were on the ice. But with all that said, the bigger story that seems to be unfolding here in terms of like the extrapolation made by right wingers for no reason is that because the player whose skate slit the neck of Johnson is a black man, obviously this is an anti-white hate crime. Okay, so these are some of the tweets that our friend Bob Kuttner, who is a writer, sorry, Bob Silverman. Oh my God, Bob Kuttner is a writer at The Prospect. I read his piece earlier today. Forgive me. Bob Silverman, friend of the show, Bob Silverman, kind of put this together here. Some of these tweets that we're seeing. Anti-Semites and far-right grifters have glommed onto the tragic death of Adam Johnson, accusing the player who accidentally collided with him of murder/manslaughter because he's black. So the infamous End Wokeness Twitter account. NHL player Adam Johnson, 29, died on live TV after Matt Petgrave slashed his throat with his skate. Petgrave has a history of bad behavior in the EIHL, including racking up the most penalty minutes, 2022. So they're, essentially saying he's a dirty player. The media quickly has declared it a total accident, but many viewers and expert hockey players are not convinced. What do you think? Slow down clip. We will not play that clip for you. I did watch it. I'll give you my assessment in a second. Keep going. Stu Peters, Matt Petgrave is a straight-up murderer. He literally roundhouse kicks this guy with his skate, slashing his throat and killing him on ice. Again, that is incredibly irresponsible to say. Keep going. He needs to be charged with manslaughter, says Elijah Schaefer. That sicko. And then Ian Miles Chong. This should be manslaughter at the minimum. Matt Petgrave clearly knew what he was doing. So a lot of these, folks on Twitter like to moonlight, I guess, as investigators of murders.
Hockey experts.
Yeah, and also hockey experts. Ian Miles Chong, where does he reside?
I believe he lives in Malaysia, last time I checked.
Okay, so Malaysian hockey expert Ian Miles Chong believes that this is manslaughter at the minimum. Now, the video is very graphic. I would not ever play this on a live stream. And by very, I mean, from what I've seen, you don't see really the aftermath, but you do see the slicing of the neck. And my assessment of the video is this. In what you see is that potentially Petgrave here is trying to do what is called a dirty play, a slew foot, okay? So he's checking another player. He's using his foot to make contact and drag beneath the opposing player's foot, which trips them. It's considered dirty because it's unexpected. The player can fall in an awkward position, really hurt themselves. But honestly, it does happen a good amount in hockey, slew footing. You can look up many compilations of NHL players doing the exact same thing, where you basically sweep out the player's foot from under them with your own leg. And it seemed like when Petgrave was checking this player that was not Adam Johnson, that he kicked his leg out and missed. And the momentum led his leg backward into the throat of Adam Johnson. That is not, it's not a legal play to slew foot someone, but it is not an uncommon play in hockey. Ask anybody that's ever played hockey, not Ian Miles Chong, okay? But people who have played the sport before know that slew footing happens.
Or Stu Peters, who, if you say his name fast enough, literally sounds like stupider.
Or Elijah Schaefer, obviously, by the way. So, I mean, like the disgraced producer from Glenn Beck's program. But, like, the idea that this person who's playing a game, even if it was a dirty play, which happens all the time, and it gets celebrated when Tom Wilson, for example, grabs Artemi Panarin's hair and brings him to the ground with his helmet off where his head almost hit the ice and he could have cracked his skull open. You have Capitals fans being like, what a tough guy. What an awesome guy. I'm saying that because I'm a Rangers fan, but like that comes to mind. There's a ton of dirty players in hockey, but it's a black guy now. Manslaughter. And
also those moments where the Capitals fans might be celebrating, or any kind of like dirty player or player who kind of gets into those types of situations, the luck, and I don't mean to be I'm not trying to be flippant when I say this, but truly, like, the luck is on their side in that moment. Like, Tom Wilson didn't slam Artemi Panarin's head hard enough into the ice for him to die, or for him to experience severe brain damage.
Right.
Like, there'd be a significant difference in the tenor of those reactions if that were the case. These are like kind of knife's edge probability moments that in that moment, even as you said, even if we're granting that it's most likely a inadvisable dirty play to begin with, for that exact angle, the exact speed, for that skate to slice that man's neck, killing him, is so incredibly unlikely.
So unlikely.
And which is what makes it so tragic, is that these things don't happen all the time. They don't happen every day. And there's certainly, at least in my estimation, barring some disclosure that Matt Petgrave is like a malicious psychopath, he is probably absolutely agonized that in playing a game in a British hockey league that he accidentally killed somebody.
Yes. I mean, and it's not like they get paid a ton to play over there, because these guys had past NHL attempts and they just didn't make it in the league in North America. But like, I mean, let's be real here. There is absolutely no justification for this wild speculation on social media except racism. There's just no way to square that. And like, I'm also not even going to say fully that it is a slew foot, that it was a dirty play, because that's just my assessment from watching this grainy footage at a very slow speed on social media. But I can 100% say is that manslaughter is an insane thing to accuse to go after somebody who is playing within the confines of an already violent sport. And there are plenty of dirty players in the NHL where an accident like this could happen. We've had incidents in the NHL where throats have been slit open. Richard Zednik, that was a friendly fire thing. It was by one of his own players. I mean, don't even look up that footage. You see the blood pouring on the ice.
And
survived.
Clint Malarchuk, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the goalie. That's happened before in the NHL. Bigger picture.
And those guys could have, and again, not to be too grim about this, but those guys absolutely could have died as well.
100%.
If the angle of the skate is different, if the approach from the person, if the accidental motion is any different and cuts a different area, that person is dead.
Exactly.
And we're not saying, and there was no, I don't think there was anyone thinking that there was any more malice ascribed to those plays by someone where one of the incidents that you're saying with Zednik was literally his own teammate that people would be calling necessarily, or I can't imagine, I obviously can't prove this to be true, but I cannot imagine that Ian Miles Chong and Stu Peters and Elijah Schaefer and the End Wokeness Twitter account would be saying that should be treated as manslaughter if a white teammate did it to his other white teammate.
Of course.
By accident.
Absolutely.
Very clearly by accident.
Of course they wouldn't. They are, there to spread racist propaganda and assign harassment to people, or not assign it, I should say, engender harassment towards people who, don't fit the vision that their audience wants for, like, America or for whatever country they reside in. It's disgusting. I mean, these people, they're social media influencers, whether it's Ian Miles Chong or Chaya Raichik, right? I mean, they are the scum of the earth, honestly. They just use their period of, like, time on this earth.
This is just grist for the mill, as you're saying.
Paid guns on the internet to dox random people and direct harassment towards them for things that they don't deserve harassment towards. So, like, I don't care if this guy was a dirty player. I mean, by the assessment of end wokeness or whatever, clearly this was an accident. And this should be an opportunity to get the NHL to start wearing, I don't care if you don't think it looks cool, neck guards. And
100%.
I mean, I've always said that NHL players should wear those fishbowl masks so that their face doesn't get slit open. But at the very least, protect the neck, which is one of the softest areas of your body and the most vulnerable areas of your body, from skates, which could
sharp. As we've seen in this very instance, how actually fatal that can be.
It is unbelievable. Like, the only reason that the NFL changed its stripes slightly was because there was litigation on concussions. They now have these Guardian helmets in practice, which is a good step forward. But it's still not enough, but a good step forward. And they are working to mitigate concussions because they were forced to. They were never going to do it until they were forced to. The NHL's got to be forced, because an incident like this, if they don't change, will happen in the NHL. And it's like a matter of time, honestly.
And like, the question also, it begs the question, like, as a league, does the NHL want to like potentially just wait for that to force their hand?
But that's what these stupid, arrogant organizations that are make millions of dollars, and the NHL less so than the NFL. That's what they act like. They are reactive as opposed to proactive. So I'm so sorry for the family here of Johnson. There's just no.
Yeah, it's
unimaginable.
unbearable.
But let's keep our eye on the prize here and make it so this game is safer, because it is a beautiful game.
And so hopefully, as you said, that if preemptive measures could actually be taken, and if the NHL could actually do what they can to prioritize the safety, even for unlikely cases of something like this happen, so that the fate that befell Adam Johnson at this moment can never happen again.
100%. All right, guys, gonna read some IMs, and then we will get out of here. We were very efficient today. 10 lawn gnomes. Thoughts on University of Michigan sign stealing scandal? It's amazing that colleges aren't using headsets like in the NFL, but it sounds like it's been going on for a while. Many people lost a bunch of money betting on the games. Otherwise, I don't know why they suddenly care. I promise we will talk about that on Thursday. We just had many games to get to today. And I had it on our little rundown thing, but I just forgot to really like dive into it.
I at first was like, oh, like I feel like sometimes teams do that, but then more and more kept coming. I was like, oh, okay, this is like a really a very like and also like layered many different components.
I hate the NCAA too, and I do think they've had it out for Harbaugh, but the evidence seems overwhelming.
Yeah, now I was like, oh, okay, got it. There's more to this than just like.
And Harbaugh's a known scumbag,
right?
So it's like nobody here is a hero.
It's also like the funny thing too is like even if it wasn't a big deal, I'm almost like, yeah, but like I don't even like the guy to begin. I'm not inclined to cut Jim Harbaugh any slack.
Exactly. Lorelei Gilmore says, though Lamar Jackson didn't have his greatest game of the season yesterday, he's kept up his amazing career record against the whole NFC, making it 17-1. The only NFC team to beat Lamar Jackson has been the Giants somehow. That is crazy. Last year, we beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And he had a turnover on like what I was sure was going to be a game-winning drive to win the game. And that was, the Giants had shamrocks up their ass all year last year. They really just pulled out a lot of these games they weren't supposed to win.
But I love that team.
The Giants?
The 2022 Giants.
I know. Well,
love those guys.
Complete aberration, and it's quite clear this year. Tater Tot, Case Keenum reunion tour with the Vikings. I mean, maybe. I just find it concerning that he is the third string quarterback on Houston. Like, has Keenum lost his fastball? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean he's 35, so he's also Kirk's age. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like why not see? That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Sort of the Raiders. Like, why don't you? I don't know anything about this. What's his name again? Jaron Hall. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about him.
BYU quarterback, 5th round pick.
But I figure why not see if there'd really be no other reason to see what he has, and why not see what he has?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and Kevin O'Connell knows how to get guys open. So
right.
Antifa Lockhart, I'm glad Emma just took my message to heart, has finally gone 180 on her Bajent mania. You were all over this guy last week when you couldn't shit on Fields fast enough. Well, he's an undrafted Division II quarterback. I thought he looked good for those standards versus the first round pick that is Justin Fields.
Emma, you got to slow the Bajentum down. It's enough coming. It's enough coming from you.
I mean, everyone at the office has been saying that.
I left last week and I was like, she was going crazy over Tyson Bagent.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, baby. That's all I talked about. Antonin Scalia's Ghost Ravens were up 20-10 with 6 minutes left and fell apart in that Giants game. Yep. Tom Lofink, happy Monday. The weekend was the Men's Rugby World Cup final. South Africa won a record 4th title by beating New Zealand in the final. Also, England finished in 3rd place by beating Argentina 26-23 in the bronze medal final. Thank you for the update, rugby correspondent.
I feel like you picked South Africa, so that's good.
I did pick South Africa.
Look at you.
It was a very informed choice.
Should have laid some money on that.
I know. Ray says, with regards to the Eagles only sacking Howell once last night, look at how fast Howell got rid of the ball and how many times the Eagles rushed more than 4. The Commanders' game plan worked great against the Eagles because the Eagles had problems covering the middle of the field so far their front four couldn't get home. The Eagles have a problem at linebacker. That's like the one exploit. It's a good point, J-Man Jays.
For sure.
It's one of the only, or actually that was Ray. I'm sorry, not J-Man Jays. That's the one weakness of that team, basically.
And I feel like the Byard trade was sort of like shore up the spine a little bit, but I still think the linebackers themselves, like after losing TJ Edwards and Kayvon Wallace in free agency, that's like I think a clear
deficiency,
sore spot for them. Yeah.
J-Man Jays, hey guys, big game tonight, Rangers Jets. Also, my Oilers are not looking too good. Also, the refs cost my Raps the game Friday, and I'm not over it. Problems. Oh, screw Aaron Troglodyte Rogers. Sorry, Bradley left his best. Troglodyte, sorry.
Whoa!
This is like me trying to pronounce Nishi. I said Nietzsche one time, and people never let me get over it. It's so funny. It's like only right-wingers like to quote Nishi, I feel like.
Well, because it's a lot of like I'm like God stuff. Like
I'd only seen it written
megalomania.
before. I'd only seen it written before.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Anyway, yes. Is it a big game? For me, every Rangers game is a big game, but yeah, the Oilers are having issues. They did win that outdoor game, the Heritage thing or whatever, I believe, over the weekend. But McDavid is injured. And
it's just like I'm agonized by the goalie situation still.
Yeah, Skinner. It's just they can never get it right.
Because it's him and Talbot right now. Is that the split? Is it Cam? I think it's Cam Talbot and Stuart Skinner. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if Talbot's still on the team. I guess he is. Yeah.
And so it just does not. To me, I'm like that doesn't seem like the ideal.
No, Talbot's on.
Oh, sorry. There's another guy with Skinner where I'm just like I don't think it's the right combo, but
you're thinking of Jack Campbell.
That's it. Jack Campbell. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's just they've had this issue. It feels like for time immemorial. Kowalski from Nebraska. The Nebraska Cornhuskers volleyball team has overtaken the football team in live viewers. I guess Nebraska is officially feminist. We did it. We do have the best volleyball team in the country, arguably the world. I know. I've been checking that out a little bit.
That's the one that broke the record.
Yes.
Of attendance. Yeah. Go Huskers. Every Husker except Matt Rule, I mean.
Okie Public Defender said, what are y'all's thoughts on the Saints replacing Carr and Winston with Taysom Hill? I think Taysom is the most underrated player on the team. I don't know. I mean,
I wouldn't want him as like an actual like every snap quarterback.
They've tried that before and it's just not worked. He is a good player. He's an interesting, essays will be written about Taysom Hill. But I think he's fine in the role that he's in.
The offense didn't looked
pretty good last.
Totally, like probably the best that they looked in the season so far.
Yeah,
Kamara was able to actually like get something going on the ground. Like,
I should say that Alvin Kamara is still underrated.
Oh yeah, I can't believe
his contact balance is amazing.
Yeah, he's untackleable sometimes.
And I just feel like his consistency is underrated, and his ability to just his ability to be so consistent year in and year out for the New Orleans Saints is underrated. Pupster, it seems like there's a parallel between well, this is not related to football. This is about Israel. So we'll save that for tomorrow. 6 Foot Bear, Emma and Bradley wondering what your thoughts are on the Packers besides the necessity of re-signing the Beast, Gary. They seem unable to realize that they are not good and need help at all levels. So also, what about love, growing pains, or talentlessness? I think we answered that already. And the final I am of the day, Happy Camper, 5 to 6 players getting hurt at MetLife yesterday. Might be time for a new stadium. Yes, it's somehow not that old and yet is fucking terrible.
For everyone involved, the entire experience, for players and for fans, it is atrocious. It is like, I hate going there.
I hate everything about it. It's not pretty. It looks like a jail on the outside.
Yeah, it's aesthetically displeasing.
It's difficult to get to. It's difficult to get out of.
The food is bad.
It's overpriced. It's in the middle of New Jersey.
I want nothing to do with it.
Why? It's next to the American dream. Fucking,
The pinnacle of New Jersey failure, the American dream.
Which I'm convinced is like a Sopranos style, like giveaway to
it's like the Esplanade in the Sopranos.
There's an indoor ski rink ski slope that no one ever goes to. I mean, it's the disgusting display of Americana.
And
I hate MetLife Stadium.
And as the IMer is saying, it's like, and people just literally go here and get injured. Like it's just like par for the course.
It sucks. And it's and give like put some damn grass down. This isn't an indoor dome in Las Vegas. You can do it. And also I think they have grass, by the way. Any team could do it if they wanted to.
Exactly. And it's not there's nothing prohibitive about it. They just don't want to do it. They just don't want to they don't want to have the expenditure or take the time to do it.
It is humiliating for all involved. And have been new stadiums that I like. Citi Field is actually like really gorgeous. And it's not that hard to get to. I mean, it's far out there.
Citi Field's great.
Right, yeah. I know, but I mean, a lot of people are nostalgic about Shea Stadium, which I understand, but I think that Citi Field in terms of the new New York stadiums is a good one.
I think I agree primarily because unlike Shea, I was sentimental for as a kid. I'm sentimental for as a kid, but I think Citi in terms of like a modern ballpark, they have made it so habitable for people who just want to spend time doing things where they don't have to be in their seat.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's so many walkways.
Yeah,
the porches where you could sit and take in the game where all the food is. There are vendors everywhere, so you're not like.
Yes.
Whereas in MetLife, there are really vendors only in a few places, so like you're online for like 40 minutes basically.
Yeah.
And which is I think the same problem that Yankee Stadium has, unfortunately. Even though Yankee Stadium is beautiful in its own right, it's a similar thing where like you're waiting till the fourth inning to get a hot dog. But Citi doesn't have that.
But it has the iconic nature of it or whatever.
Well, yes, of course. But I'm saying it's possible. It is literally possible to do this, and the Johnson family just refuses to do it.
Yeah, and I don't. The Maras usually are not this way, but they are culpable. They are culpable.
Yeah, we're calling you out.
All right, guys.
I know they watch. I know the Maras watch.
We do know that too. All right, appreciate you all. We'll see you on Thursday for our picks against the spread. Pray for me against the spread tonight. Go Lions. Bye.
Bye-bye.